On June 27th, the city of Toronto welcomed the arrival of the Tall Ships Parade of Sail, a moment that brought history, tradition, and maritime beauty to life. Early in the morning, the iconic Toronto sailing vessel, Empire Sandy, set out across Lake Ontario with its first guests and members of the press on board, eager to meet the incoming ships of this international regatta. This year, the fleet may have been smaller, but the grandeur of these historic tall ships remained undeniable. These vessels, some echoing designs that have sailed the seas for centuries, carried with them the spirit of adventure, exploration, and resilience. But the weather had other plans. Clouds blanketed the sky. The wind was strong, and the sun fought to break through. And yet, the energy on board the Empire Sandy was electric. Despite the conditions, many had gathered, drawn by a shared love of the sea and the thrill of being the first to welcome these magnificent ships to Port Toronto. It isn't just a sail, it is a connection to history, to nature, and to the enduring power of the wind and water. Held every 3 years, the Tall Ships Parade is a global tradition only paused once, in 2022, because of the COVID pandemic. True to tradition, the Toronto Tall Ships Parade is flanked by a fleet of support including the Coast Guard, rescue units, and fire and medical services. Para Marine Search and Rescue, a volunteer-based, professionally trained marine search and rescue organization operating on Lake Ontario, provides search and rescue services, support distressed vessels, and promote boating safety. The Canadian Coast Guard Auxiliary Unit Comra Marine Rescue Association is a dedicated marine search and rescue team covering the waters of Lake Ontario and the Durham region. The Canadian Coast Guard Auxiliary is a major player in Canada's National Search and Rescue (SAR) response network. Annually, the auxiliary responds to approximately 25% of thousands of marine SAR incidents. Canadian Fire and EMS provides emergency response services to the community. Specializing in fire and marine emergencies, the station is equipped to handle a wide range of situations to ensure the safety and well-being of residents in the area. The Toronto Police Service Marine Unit policing all waterways within the City of Toronto, including Lake Ontario, the Toronto Islands. The Marine Unit has a unique responsibility in the Toronto Police Service. It is the largest command and is responsible for all waterways within Toronto including 2 major rivers, the Humber River and the Don River, 2 large reservoirs, several large ponds and more than 1,190 square kilometers of open water on Lake Ontario. The coverage the Marine Unit provides on Lake Ontario is larger than the City of Toronto. The operational jurisdiction is from Etobicoke Creek in Peel Region to the Rouge River in Durham Region, and extends 13 nautical miles to the Canada/US border. This year the following vessels are arriving at the Port of Toronto for the Tall Ships Parade. Pride of Baltimore 2, passenger topsail schooner. Letty G. Howard, fishing schooner. SV Fairjean, passenger and sail training vessel. TS Playfair, sail training vessel. Empire Sandy, 3-mast schooner. On the horizon, a silhouette emerges. It's the Pride of Baltimore 2, leading the parade in true maritime style. The original Pride of Baltimore, a replica of an 1812 privateer, sailed over 150,000 nautical miles before tragically sinking in 1986. In her memory, Pride of Baltimore II was launched in 1988. Since then, she has sailed over 250,000 nautical miles, visiting 40-plus countries and sharing Maryland's maritime heritage worldwide. Built in 1893 in Essex, Massachusetts, the Letty G. Howard was named after her captain's daughter and fished the North Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico. Over the years, she was rebuilt, renamed, and even became a failed tourist attraction. Rescued in the 1960s by the South Street Seaport Museum, she now sails as a living history vessel, educating future mariners across the Great Lakes. Built in 1982 by Canadian naval hero Captain Thomas G. Fuller and named after his wife, S.B. Fair Jean has sailed as far as the Adriatic Sea. Today, she serves as a sail training vessel for Bytown Brigantine Incorporated, offering youth leadership programs and high school credits at sea. With over 150,000 nautical miles sailed and 2,000 trainees, she continues to inspire the next generation of mariners. Operated by Briggs Youth Sail Training in Hamilton, TS Playfair offers hands-on sailing adventures for teens, regardless of financial background. Built in 1973 and christened by Queen Elizabeth II, she's a dedicated youth training vessel crewed almost entirely by volunteers under 19. A familiar sight on the Great Lakes, Playfair continues to empower young sailors through unforgettable experiences. ceremonial moment is approaching as the arriving tall ships from the bay enter the harbor. According to tradition, they are greeted by the two fireboats with a spectacular grand water salute. A water salute for yachts is a ceremonial act where fireboats spray water over a yacht, often during its first arrival or departure, or for special occasions. This tradition, also used for other ships and aircraft, symbolizes respect, celebration, and honor. The water is typically sprayed in an arc over the vessel, creating a visually impressive display. Water salutes are not just random occurrences, they are typically reserved for significant events like a yacht's maiden voyage, the first visit to a port, or a farewell to a captain. The most striking aspect of a water salute is the visual spectacle of water being sprayed from fireboats or other vessels in an arc over the yacht. Water salutes are a way of showing respect, appreciation, and celebration. They can also symbolize cleansing, renewal, or honor. Fireboats are often used for water salutes because they have the powerful water cannons needed to create the desired effect. built in 1943 as a deep-sea tug, Empire Sandy served in World War II convoys across the Atlantic, Mediterranean, and Indian Ocean. Transformed in the late 1970s into a majestic three-mast schooner, she was relaunched in 1982. Today, Empire Sandy is Canada's largest sailing tall ship, offering cruises and charters from Toronto's waterfront.
Toronto's first tall ships parade took place in the early 1980s as part of the Canada Day weekend and the launch of the Tall Ships Challenge, rotating among Great Lakes and coastal ports. As the crowd drew thousands along the harbour front, the tall ships including Empire Sandy, Pathfinder, and Playfair became a summer highlight. Since 2010, the Parade of Sail has been held every 3 years, drawing tall ship fleets from across North America. One highlight was in 2013, when a full fleet of 16 vessels sailed into Toronto to honor the War of 1812 bicentennial, notably featuring Pride of Baltimore II and others. The Tall Ship Grand Parade fleets entering via the Eastern Gap into Toronto Harbour marks the official start of the summer festivals. The Tall Ship Parade of Sail on the waterfront features the breathtaking Tall Ships Parade as one of its signature events. Since 2010, the festival brings a rare spectacle to modern harbors: the grand fleet of tall ships, many with sails fully unfurled, arriving in Toronto Harbour for the Parade of Sail. Visitors can explore these historic vessels up close, and in some cases, even step aboard for a sailing experience, including on Empire Sandy, Canada's largest tall ship. The Tall Ship Parade of Sail attract hundreds of thousands of spectators, boosting local tourism by millions of dollars. It is both a visual spectacle and a chance to connect visitors with maritime history and hands-on sailing experience. Journey aboard the Empire Sandy is coming to an end, but the Tall Ships celebration is far from over. For the next 2 days, the Tall Ships crews are ready to welcome Torontonians and visitors alike to experience the magic of these majestic vessels. Throughout the Tall Ships Festival, the Empire Sandy offers special daily tours on Lake Ontario, giving guests a chance to sail in classic style. And for those who want to experience the city in a truly unforgettable way, night tours are also available. As the sun sets and the lights of Toronto begin to glow, you'll sail past a stunning skyline featuring the iconic CN Tower and the soaring skyscrapers of Canada's largest city, home to over 3 million people and a vibrant hub of global business, finance, art, and culture. Don't miss this unique opportunity to capture breathtaking photos and videos of the city bathed in twilight. It's a visual experience like no other.